Yo, I want to talk about... What? Beyblade? No, wait, my confusion is a joke, don't click away. I promise, if you play Magic the Gathering, this is relevant to you and you're going to want to hear this. Because these little anime spinning tops have made me reevaluate my relationship to Magic and ask an important question that I think once you're done listening to me here, you're going to want to ask too. You see, these eye-catching battle toys and the game in which they're played share a remarkable amount in common with Magic in most areas except one very important one. And I think that's worth discussing. So to explain, my relationship with Beyblade started only about a month ago when I watched this video by Distraction Makers, Is Beyblade X the most exciting competitive game in decades, link in the description, in which they start by saying, by the end of this video, we will convince you that Beyblade is the most exciting game to be released in decades. And well done, because you did it. Colour me convinced. Now, I'm going to try not to retread everything they said there. I'd suggest going and watching that video. But for context, Beyblade is a competitive, mostly 1v1 game where two people launch spinning tops into an arena and attempt to be the first to score 4 points over several rounds. The arenas are called stadiums and have a mostly bowl-shaped area in the middle called the battle zone, pockets in the corners called the over zones, an open window section at the front called the extreme zone, and if you look, that outer ring thing is called the extreme line, or more commonly, the X-rail. Competitors get 1 point for just outlasting their opponent by spinning for longer. You get 2 points if you can knock your opponent into one of these overzone pockets, and you get 3 points for an extreme finish by knocking your opponent into the extreme zone. During a round, if your Beyblade takes a big hit, it can literally explode, and if that happens it's called a burst finish and your opponent gets 2 points. And all of this is facilitated by the X-rail, as Beyblades from the X series have this little cog thing going on, and if that makes contact with the X-rail at the edge of the stadium, the Beyblade is suddenly flung at astonishing speeds around the ring and launched off this little ramp thing directly into the middle of the stadium, either knocking any opponent there towards the extreme zone, or, like I said, just making them actually explode into pieces. These Beyblades are made of metal, and some of them are quite weighty. The visceral impact of smashing into each other is something a YouTube video cannot do justice. It's thrilling. But, in my opinion, here's where it really gets interesting though. Because it's also incredibly tactical. Far more so than I expected. It requires thought, strategy, customization and personalization in the exact same way that Magic the Gathering does. Meaning all the things I like about Magic are right there in Beyblade as well. So let's talk about the similarities and why, as a Magic fan, you'd probably really enjoy Beyblade too. Because it's basically the same, but with literal explosions. I'm going to use Magic terms for our ease of understanding, even though that doesn't exactly make sense. But if you take a step back, you realise how comparable the two aspects are. For instance, deck building, which, just like in Magic, is an important part of Beyblade. You see, each one is made up of 3 distinct and interchangeable parts. The blade, the ratchet, and the bit. And depending on which parts you pick and how you choose to build your Beyblade, will determine what kind of strategy you want to employ in the arena. I'm serious. The metal and plastic blade part comes in varying weights and sizes, which will affect not just spin duration but also impact strength and resistance. Notice Strand Dagger here is very spiky, meaning it will be hitting more frequently, but at the expense of spin stamina and being more vulnerable to attack itself. Whereas Tusk Mammoth is more round, meaning it will land less hits, but is more likely to spin for longer and deflect any blows upon itself. And there's even more nuanced factors that go into choosing which blade to run. For instance, some are angled more up or down, meaning they'll be more likely to land blows from above or below, and even clockwise or counterclockwise spin direction is something that needs to be taken into account, as Cobalt Dragoon here demonstrates, as it's considered a left spin blade. The ratchet middle part makes a difference in 2 major ways. First, height, allowing you to again choose whether to come at your opponent from above or below, and second, in the number it has of these protruding wing things, which help support your blade in how often it hits versus how long it spins, and also versus how defensive it is. Notice this 660 ratchet has 6 protrusions and a height of 6mm, whereas this 380 ratchet has 3 wing things and a height of 8mm. All of that information factors into how your Beyblade performs and is something you need to consider when putting one together. Finally, the bit, which is the bottom part it actually spins on, and these come in all shapes and sizes. Beyblade has this Pokemon-esque rock paper scissors type system thing going on, where attack blades can usually stop stamina blades from spinning, stamina blades can outlast defense blades due to not being attacked, and defense blades can defeat attack blades by absorbing their blows or reflecting the force of their attacks back at them, with balance type being somewhere in the middle. And which type your Beyblade is mostly determined by the bit. See, low orb here as a stamina bit is very round on the bottom, meaning any Beyblade running it is likely to just spin in place for a long time. But compare that to Quake, and you'll see this attack bit has like a sheer angle on it, meaning any Beyblade running it is likely to spin unevenly and thus move around very aggressively in the stadium. And that's just 2 examples, there are loads of these things. Some of them even have different numbers of cog spokes changing how fast they'll move if they make contact with the X-Rail. So just like when deck building in Magic, you have many choices when putting your Beyblade together to suit your interest and preferred playstyle. Looking at this chart again, you can see parallels between Magic rush decks, control decks, and even mid-range in how Beyblades perform. And it doesn't end there, because just like in Magic, winning is not just about building a deck, but also piloting it. You may not think it, but in Beyblade there are many factors that go into how you choose to play. Which side of the stadium are you on? Are you closer to the X-Rail ramp or further away? And are you left spin or right spin, meaning are you starting off chasing or being chased? What height are you dropping from? And how hard are you going to try and spin? A faster spin potentially means more stamina, but also maybe less control and a wilder movement path? Are you dropping straight down vertically to try and maximise your spin time? Or are you going at an angle, meaning you'll be slightly off balance and potentially moving towards or away from your opponent? Are you even aiming for your opponent, or do you want to try and hit that X-Rail as soon as possible? And what's the matchup? Do you have the type advantage, or is it best to stay defensive? Obviously, once the Beyblades are spinning, it's out of your hands, but the amount of influence you have over how you start each round is huge. And rounds don't last that long, so that starting influence is actually a massive factor. And all that decision making and tactical thinking means each game feels strategic and intense. And because games go to 4 points, which isn't possible in a single match, all those choices you're making may change round to round based on what both you and your opponent did last go and the previous results. This to me perfectly encapsulates that 1v1 vibe that I love about Magic so much. Albeit in much quicker and more spectacular fashion, as instead of playing cards you're seeing your creations battle it out in front of you for real. And speaking of, that's another important aspect. Theme. Because the creation of your Beyblade is just that, yours, to personalise and reflect your personality as you see fit. Just as Magic has dragons, warriors, demons, and ninjas, Beyblade has drans, knights, hellions, and shinobis. If like me you care about flavour, then Beyblade won't leave you wanting. They remind me somewhat of racehorses because they've all got different personalities and bright colours and fun names like Tyranno Beat, Unicorn Sting, and the hilariously named Wizard Rod. And if you're into the narrative, there's even Beyblade TV shows and manga that are still ongoing. In some regards, actually showing Magic up here. And as an aside, I just want to perform a quick public service. Because Beyblade X has 3 lines, BX which are the basic ones, all different shapes and sizes, CX which are more customizable and with even more interchangeable parts, and the UX line with the U meaning unique, as each one has a gimmick that no other has. But I have scoured the wiki and watched the presentation videos and nowhere can I find a definitive list of what those unique aspects actually are. So real quick. UX01 Dranbuster, whose unique thing is that its shape isn't round but more oval, meaning it's going to be overbalanced and a lot more aggressive in its movement. UX02 Hell's Hammer, who has these big gaps in its blades, meaning its blows are more hammer-like. UX03 Wizard Rod, whose metal is all weighted to the outside and not in the middle, meaning it's a more balanced spin. UX04, who's just a combo pack of Dranbuster and Wizard Rod with a stadium. UX05 Shinobi Shadow, whose unique thing I think is the way the blades are shaped to deflect blows. But it's also a 1 in 3 randomized booster, and the purple one also includes this metal tip that looks fun, but it's actually banned in most tournaments because it damages stadiums apparently. UX06 Leon Crest, who's just a proper chonk. His unique thing is that he's a massive thick boy. UX07 is a triple pack, one of which is Phoenix Rider, which includes this unique bit whose tip is made of a special material to help it glide across the arena. UX08 Silver Wolf, and this one is mine. What's unique about it is that I've called dibs so you can't play with this one because this one's all for me. Get your own. Also the bit is free spinning, which means it basically doesn't affect the blade if it connects with the X-Rail, sort of negating that aspect of gameplay, so you know, it's boring, you don't want this one anyway, leave it all for me. UX09 is Samurai Saber. It comes with this fancy sword sheath launcher thing, but it's actually unique because the blade has retractable elements, meaning it starts in attack mode but after a hit will then switch to a rounder, more defensive stance. UX10 is another multi-pack, the unique one being Nightmail, who has vertically moving ball bearings helping the whole thing stay upright as it spins. UX11 Impact Drake is made of plastic, metal and also rubber, allowing it to bounce opponents away from it. UX12 is another random booster, one of which is the unique Ghost Circle, whose thing seems to be that it's just really tiny and round, making it harder to hit I guess. UX13 Golem Rock is really short, and it has contact points both above and below the blade, meaning this one can defend from all angles. And finally, the new UX-14 Scorpion Spear, which is another one with retractable blades, except this time it starts out more round and defensive, and then the blades retract in, leaving a more jagged and aggressive shape for attack. And you know what? Now that I've said all of that, I'm adding creativity to the list, because just like Magic, Beyblade also demonstrates inventive use of mechanics. Neither game are afraid to push the boundary of what's possible within their medium, leading to some really neat ideas for players to experiment with when preparing to play. And the last similarity I want to mention is just how Wizards of the Coast creates and designs Magic the Gathering, but is a part of Hasbro, their owner, who are ultimately responsible for the release of the game. Beyblade products are actually designed and produced by Takara Tomy, a Japanese company, but from what I can understand, the rights belong to, you guessed it, Hasbro, who's also responsible for Western distribution and the sale of the product, or at least from what I can gather. Beyblade even has Universes Beyond style products in the form of these Spider-Man crossovers, for instance, a hallmark of Hasbro's involvement in a game apparently. Look at what they did with Monopoly, for instance. And from what I can gather, these Spider-Man ones aren't much loved by the community. So hey, if you don't like Universes Beyond in Magic, then just know it's not only you that Hasbro are doing it to. So, with all of that being said, I feel I've made a pretty compelling case for the parallels between these two games. But before I get to my final point, hey, please come check out my Patreon. Times are rough for everyone, including me, and I don't want to have to stop making videos. However, that is something that's on the horizon for me to have to consider, sadly. I'm not looking to get rich, as evidenced I feel by the fact I've been doing this full time for the past year. But I do want to continue, and if each of you can afford to support me at even just the lowest tier, then I'd have enough to live on each month, and that's all I'm asking for. If you can afford it, you get some fun rewards for your support, and I'll get to keep creating the content that you enjoy, so please consider it, link in the description below. Now, as I say, every aspect of Beyblade, from playing it to even the production and design of the product itself, I feel is comparable to that of Magic. So why then is there one major difference? Price. Most Magic players won't want to immediately start their journey in the game via deck building, especially when they're new and don't know what they're doing. That's where precons come in. The MSRP for these Tarkir Commander decks is $44.99, selling here for about £40 as you can see listed on Amazon. The MSRP for the upcoming Final Fantasy Commander precons is apparently $69.99, which God knows how much they'll be when they hit these shores. And yes, I know once upon a time these decks used to be cheaper, but that was then and this is now. This $45 to $70 price range, or £40 plus, is the current cost of entry for a full and complete deck ready to play Magic as dictated, I expect, by Hasbro. So why then is the entry point for Beyblade anywhere from £16.99 for a complete kit with a fancy launcher and all, down to £8, like we see here with Lance Knight? Even the average price of one of those unique UX ones that I mentioned earlier seems to only be a tenner. And yes, an argument could be made that those prices don't include a stadium, but three things. First, even the cost of a full stadium is still only £34.99, cheaper than that of the £40 for a Commander Precon. Second, you only ever need to buy one stadium, so if you're attending an event where they're provided, or someone you know's already got one, then that's not a cost you need to incur to actually play the game. And third, this stadium comes with 2 Beyblades included for that price. Enough for a full experience needed for everyone to play in this one box. You don't need anything else. So I actually think it would be fairer to compare this price to a full set of 4 precons, which is also what's needed for everyone to play Commander, and when doing that the price difference is startling. And yes, that's still true even if you look at the non-premium editions, and it's still true even if you halved that price because 2 Beyblades in a stadium is 2 players, just like 2 Commander decks. Beyblade is still significantly cheaper. And I want to stress, I got these pre-order prices from Zatu, but that's not a them thing. These prices are the same across the board. Getting into Beyblade made me realise just how expensive as a hobby Magic is. And there's no need for it. As I just said when asking you to sign up to my Patreon, I certainly can't afford these prices, and this is my job. I don't know what I'm going to do when Final Fantasy comes around. And Hasbro is behind both games, and therefore I assume responsible for their price points. And I do not believe for one moment the 100 slips of printed cardboard is more expensive to manufacture than that of this moulded and printed chunk of spinning plastic and metal. So what the hell is going on? Seriously, I'm actually asking you. Someone explain this to me. Are these prices this high just because we allow them to be? Is that it? Hasbro know people will pay it, so that's what they charge. Are we all frogs that have been boiled slowly over time by rising costs? Because what, Magic's more popular than Beyblade so they can get away with it? Will Beyblade's prices rise if that game takes off more? Or is it that Takara Tomy are just some stalwart heroes holding back the tide of corporate greed? Putting WotC to shame? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Has seeing this made you reflect on Magic's prices like it did for me? Are you considering getting into Beyblade? I want to hear your thoughts. Oh, and again, stay away from UX08 Silver Wolf. That one's mine. I've called dibs. You gotta respect dibs. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like Eggboy the particle that permeates all existence, Wan Paco Jozu, Miss Murder, a random Patreon, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen. Now, I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, install an ad block, and most importantly subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or you want to see me do a video on another subject, or you want to tell me which Beyblade is your favourite, let me know and I will see you next time.